And now it's time for another exciting episode of the JoshCast. Wow, that was incredibly... That's a terrible way to start. But energized. The question is, did I enjoy starting the podcast that way? Did I have fun? That's what I have to ask myself. No, I haven't had fun. I know I don't have fun. That's not what I do. I don't believe that fun exists after you're 4. But anyway, one of my topics today, sugar. Let's discuss sugar. So I'm reading about how sugar represents that if you trace the history of sugar, you basically get to see step by step how horrible human beings are. And sugar is a beautiful way to see this. Columbus, when he's traveling and trying to find a faster route to India, he is doing this because he's seeking out sugar. Instead, he finds America, and basically, we could blame sugar addiction for the destruction of all of these amazing Native American tribes because of friggin' sugar, because of Skittles. You heard it here first. And now, whenever I eat sugar, I can add this guilt to it. Because before, I just felt guilty that I was destroying my body. Now I feel guilty because I am celebrating a legacy of human destruction. So that's nice. That's a good feeling. I'm glad I got that this Sunday. Thank you very much, Internet, for providing this information. I like that. That's good. I think this article about sugar was on the BBC News website. So BBC, you win Jewish Star of the Day for creating guilt. Good for you. Nicely done, BBC. Now I feel like I'm doing a broadcast voice. That doesn't feel right. That feels false. And I'm not feeling good enough in my abilities. And I was reading another article on the BBC, of course. It's where men go for their news. That doesn't mean anything. That's a lie. That's men and women equally can go to BBC for the news. Don't listen to what I just said. Anyway, I was reading about a musician who was dealing with fame and he got depressed when he got famous because he didn't think that he could live up to people's expectations. And eventually he said to himself, I just told myself I am enough. Now here's my question. What if he's not enough? What if none of us are enough? What if I am not enough? And here's the follow-up question. I've been doubting whether or not I've been enough for years. But if that is who I am, if I am being true to myself, then to be true to myself, I have to be constantly afraid that I am not enough. So when somebody says, be more confident, or be yourself, I am being myself by saying we should not go out. I am not good enough for you. This is not neuroses. This is science. So we covered that. Back to the sugar. A thought about the sugar I wanted to throw out there. Okay, so humankind is addicted to sugar and as a result is constantly seeking new forms of it. Maybe this is why and how we will take our next major leap into space. Maybe that's what the next iteration of Star Trek should be. They're not exploring strange new worlds to seek out new life and new civilization. They're looking for new Skittles. That is what they're looking for. They beam down to a planet and go, all right, what's your cake situation? What is this? What is this? Moose? Really? Forget it. Random thought for you. And this came out of me complaining about how when I don't like when people give advice to me, because a lot of times it feels to me like they want to see me take the advice, like they want to sit back and see what happens, good or bad. And so I almost feel like they're playing me the way they would play Grand Theft Auto, which is, yeah, let's throw them off a cliff, see what happens. Sure. Make some bad decisions. That's what somebody told me recently. Make some bad decisions. Yeah, you need to make more bad decisions. And then I got to thinking about Grand Theft Auto itself, and I made this stunning realization about Grand Theft Auto. The police in Grand Theft Auto are very lenient, incredibly lenient. You could kill 5 people, and the cops will chase you. But if you just barely outrun them and then not kill 5 people, after about 10 or 15 seconds, the police back off and they go, all right, well, we're letting you off the warning this time. But you start, shooting rockets at our copters, then we might really come at you with 6 cop cars, Sonny. Observation about Grand Theft Auto. The tricky part in doing a podcast when no one else is around, which feels like a Buddhist koan to me. If you do a podcast alone and no one is around, is it worth your time? That's the question. But the weird thing about it is that I'll say things and I will hope for a laugh, but there's no one in the room. There's no one here. So I have no idea. I get that, I think this could be funny. And I have no idea if it's funny or not. So please feel free to comment. Although I'm hesitant to ask that because when I've looked back at the 5 or 6 people who have viewed the podcast so far, all I'm getting like 0 likes, 0 thumbs up, 1 thumb down. 96 people viewed the last podcast I did on YouTube. There were 96 views, 1 thumb down, and I'm curious to know what the thumb down was about. No, or am I not? Maybe I don't want to know. Does it have to? I'm assuming it's just feeding into my not thinking I'm good enough complex, which may or may not just be who I am. I don't know these answers. All right, well, we covered sugar. We covered space travel, my 2 favorite subjects. Do we need to cover depression? I think the depression is evident. And I think I'll end with this thought, which is I do want to make it big. And I do want to eventually be rich. And by eventually, I mean now. But I do feel strongly that when that happens, the one thing I'm not going to do is buy and drive a sports car. And it's nothing against people who like sports cars. Good for you. Good for enjoying fast cars. I would just rather, I want a car that I feel less likely to die in. That's my big thing. The joy of feeling the road. I don't need to feel the road. I really don't. I'm getting to the point where I barely need to feel another human being, maybe once a month, with an attorney present, and a totally consensual situation, if that. So I'm good on cars. I just want, all I need is an MRI machine and a Honda Element, and I'm good.